Love without self-respect isn't love. It's a slow form of self-destruction.
The person who respects themselves will never have to beg for love. Love may make you feel wanted, but self-respect makes you feel worthy. But we often grow up being told that love is the most important thing in life. We hear it in movies and songs and stories that have been passed down for generations. Love is portrayed as the answer, the thing that makes everything better. But here's the truth most people miss. Love, no matter how powerful it may feel, cannot hold you together if you don't have a foundation. And that foundation is self-respect. Self-respect is the recognition of your own worth. The unwavering belief that you matter even before anyone else validates it. Without it, love becomes dangerous. Without it, you begin to sacrifice your values, your standards, and even your identity just to keep someone close. And in doing so, you lose the very essence of who you are. Think about it this way. A house built on weak soil may look beautiful on the outside, but the moment a storm hits, it crumbles. Love without self-respect is exactly that. It feels exciting, even intoxicating. But the moment challenges come, you start bending and breaking in ways that leave you hollow. On the other hand, when you build on a strong foundation of self-respect, love becomes a complement, not a crutch. You are not dependent on it to survive. You are already whole, already complete, already enough.
There's a subtle trap many people fall into. They confuse being loved with being valuable. They seek constant validation through someone else's affection, attention, or approval. But here's the problem. If your value depends on someone else's recognition, then you've handed over the keys to your own identity. The moment they stop loving you, or the moment they withdraw their approval, you collapse. Self-respect eliminates that fragility. It reminds you that your value is not borrowed. It's built from within.
When you have self-respect, you set standards. Not walls, but standards. You decide how people treat you, how they speak to you, and how much space they occupy in your life. Without self-respect, you end up tolerating behaviors that diminish you, all in the name of love. But that isn't love. It's desperation dressed up as devotion. Love in its truest form is not meant to strip you of dignity. It is meant to exist alongside it. Let's look deeper. Love is often described as sacrifice. And in many ways it is. But sacrifice without self-respect is not noble. It's self-destruction. When you constantly give up your needs, your boundaries and your voice, just to preserve a relationship, you are slowly erasing yourself. You're no longer choosing love. You're choosing fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And when fear becomes the foundation of love, it no longer heals, it hurts. On the other hand, self-respect transforms the way you experience love. It doesn't make you colder or distant. It makes you clearer. You no longer need love to fill a void. You no longer chase relationships to prove your worth. Instead, you attract the kind of love that aligns with your values. You enter relationships not out of need, but out of choice. And that shift changes everything. Imagine two people entering a relationship. One comes in believing, I am incomplete, and I need you to make me whole. The other comes in believing, I am whole, and I choose to share my wholeness with you. Which one do you think creates a healthier dynamic? Which one is sustainable? The second one, always. Because when two people with self-respect come together, they're not clinging to each other out of fear of being empty. They're choosing to build something greater out of strength. This is why self-respect is the foundation of identity. It's what allows you to stay standing when love isn't present. It's what allows you to walk away when love demands the cost of your dignity. It's what reminds you that love is not the prize you are. Without that grounding, you become a wanderer, constantly searching for someone else to give you what you have denied yourself. But with it, you move through life with a different kind of confidence. You know that your worth is not negotiable, not conditional, not dependent on who stays or who leaves.
The danger of putting love above self-respect is that it tricks you into believing you cannot survive without someone else. But history, personal stories, and even your own experiences prove otherwise. You've survived heartbreak before. You've endured rejection before. What got you through wasn't the absence of pain. It was the presence of resilience. And resilience is born from self-respect. It's that inner voice that says, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I loved, but I am still me. I am still worthy. I will still rise.
People often say that love is blind, but self-respect gives you sight. It allows you to see red flags for what they are. It allows you to say no when everything in you wants to say yes. It allows you to step back and ask, is this love lifting me or is it breaking me? Without self-respect, you don't ask those questions. You stay, you bend, you break. With self-respect, you pause, you think, and you choose. And this is the crucial part. Love will always be uncertain. It can change, it can fade, it can grow distant, but self-respect is permanent. It doesn't abandon you. It doesn't betray you. It doesn't leave when times get hard. It is the one relationship in your life that you cannot afford to lose, because losing it means losing yourself. There's a silent truth about human relationships that many people never realize until it's too late. The way you allow others to treat you sets the standard for how they continue to treat you. Boundaries are not barriers that push people away. They are the lines that define your value. They are the invisible framework that communicates to the world who you are, what you will tolerate, and what you will never compromise on. And this is where self-respect comes in, because without it, your boundaries crumble. Love, as powerful as it feels, cannot protect you if you have no boundaries. In fact, love without boundaries can quickly become toxic. You might think that love means unconditional acceptance, but unconditional acceptance without self-respect leads to endless tolerance of behaviors that slowly diminish your worth. When you believe love is enough to hold a relationship together, you risk confusing sacrifice with surrender. You end up giving away your voice, your peace, and your dignity under the illusion of preserving love. Boundaries are the clearest reflection of how much you value yourself. When you respect yourself, you set limits, not because you want to control others, but because you understand your own worth. You know what lifts you and what breaks you. You know what aligns with your values and what doesn't. And when you clearly define these lines, love either honors them or reveals itself as something unworthy of you. It's easy to think that setting boundaries might push people away. We fear that if we say no, if we stand up for ourselves, if we communicate our needs, love might vanish. But the truth is the opposite. Real love doesn't vanish when boundaries appear, it deepens. Real love sees your boundaries not as rejection but as clarity, because boundaries are not walls that close people out. They are doors that invite the right people in and keep the wrong ones out. Think about this in practical terms. If you love someone but never communicate your limits, they may unknowingly cross them again and again. Over time, you'll feel drained, resentful, and disconnected, all while blaming love for not being enough. But love was never the issue. The absence of boundaries was. Self-respect is what gives you the courage to say, this is okay, but this is not. This is what I need, and this is what I cannot accept. Without that courage, you end up in a cycle of silence and suffering. And it's not just in romantic relationships. Boundaries define value in every aspect of life. Friendships, family, career, even with yourself. If you don't respect your own time, others won't either. If you don't respect your own energy, people will take it endlessly. If you don't respect your own dreams, others will dismiss them. Boundaries are the living proof of self-respect, the external expression of your internal values. There is also a profound paradox here. People often believe that boundaries will make them less lovable, less approachable, less giving. But in reality, boundaries make love more sustainable. When you have no limits, you overextend. You pour out energy you don't have. You give in ways that exhaust you. And eventually, you feel resentful toward the very people you wanted to love. Boundaries prevent that. They protect your ability to love without losing yourself in the process. They allow you to give, but not at the cost of your dignity. Now consider what happens when love exists without boundaries. Slowly, compromises begin to pile up. You accept disrespectful words under the excuse of passion. You forgive actions that go against your values, telling yourself that love means patience. You put aside your own needs because the relationship feels more important. And eventually you wake up realizing that you've been reshaped by someone else's behavior. You are no longer yourself. You are a version of yourself, sculpted by someone else's demands. That isn't love. That is submission. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. Selfishness says, only I matter. Boundaries say, I matter too. And that simple distinction changes everything. It tells others, I am here, I am present, I am willing to give, but I am not willing to disappear. When you carry yourself with that level of clarity, love doesn't just respect you, it grows stronger. Because love thrives in clarity. It suffocates in chaos. Think of boundaries as a mirror. They show others how you see yourself. If your boundaries are weak or non-existent, it communicates that you don't believe your needs, your values, or your peace are important. People who sense that will either take advantage of it or continue to ignore it. But when your boundaries are strong, it communicates that you know your worth and you won't settle for anything less. And those who truly care for you will rise to meet that standard. The mistake people often make is waiting for love to create boundaries for them. They hope that if someone truly loves them, they will automatically know how to treat them. But love does not equal understanding. People are not mind readers. Without boundaries, even the kindest love can unintentionally hurt you, not out of malice, but out of ignorance. Self-respect removes that guesswork. It gives people a clear blueprint of how to love you in a way that honors who you are. And here's the beauty of it. Boundaries not only protect your self-respect, they also refine the quality of the love you receive. They filter out the shallow, the manipulative, the conditional, and the selfish. They leave behind only the love that is real, consistent, and respectful. Love without boundaries feels fragile, unstable, constantly in danger of breaking. But love built within the framework of self-respect feels steady, reliable, and empowering. It is not love that costs you your identity. It is love that celebrates it. Love has the power to light up our lives in an instant. It can feel like fire, sudden and consuming, filling us with energy and passion we didn't know we had. But fire, as bright as it burns, cannot last forever without fuel. This is the nature of love when it is not grounded in something deeper. It can be fleeting, it can fade, and it can leave you in the dark the moment it runs out. Self-respect, on the other hand, is not fire. It is the steady flame of a lamp, the kind of light that does not blind you with intensity but sustains you through the night. It is not temporary. It is permanent. When you rely only on love for fulfillment, you are chasing something that by its very nature changes form. Love can grow, but it can also wither. It can connect two people powerfully in one season and drift them apart in another. This doesn't make love meaningless. It makes it human. But the danger comes when you use love as your only source of validation, your only measure of happiness. In that case, you are always at risk of losing yourself. When love shifts, self-respect protects you from that loss. It gives you fulfillment that endures regardless of whether love stays or leaves. There's a reason people who lose themselves in love often feel empty when it ends. They gave everything to that one connection, believing it was the source of their worth, their happiness, their purpose. But when the person walked away, so did their sense of identity. That emptiness reveals a painful truth. What they thought was fulfillment was actually dependence. Dependence feels like love, but it's not sustainable. Fulfillment born out of self-respect is different. It isn't tied to someone else's presence. It is tied to your own sense of value. Consider how this plays out in real life. A person in love may feel whole because someone is choosing them, affirming them, giving them attention. But when that love fades, their sense of wholeness vanishes with it. Another person, rooted in self-respect, feels whole before love even arrives. When love comes, it enhances their life, but it doesn't define it. When love fades, it hurts, of course, but it doesn't destroy them. Why? Because their foundation was never built on someone else's approval. It was built on their own. This is the critical distinction between temporary and sustainable fulfillment. Temporary fulfillment comes from things outside of you. Love, attention, recognition. Sustainable fulfillment comes from within you. Your principles, your standards, your self-respect. Temporary fulfillment is fragile like glass. It shines beautifully when it's intact, but the smallest crack can shatter it. Sustainable fulfillment is resilient. Like steel, it bends, it absorbs pressure, but it doesn't break. Think of how many people compromise their dignity for the sake of keeping love. They endure disrespect. They overlook dishonesty. They shrink their dreams just to keep someone close. In the short term, this feels like love. It feels like security, like belonging. But deep down, there is a cost being paid. Over time, resentment grows, self-worth diminishes, and the person begins to feel trapped in a relationship that no longer reflects who they are. That's because love without self-respect cannot sustain joy. It offers temporary fulfillment while quietly draining the soul. On the other hand, self-respect creates a type of fulfillment that never depends on conditions. It doesn't depend on whether someone calls you, or someone validates you, or whether someone chooses you. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that you choose yourself every single day. That choice gives you strength. When love is absent, and clarity when love is present. It allows you to say, I want love, but I don't need love to feel complete. And that shift is what makes love, when it does come, so much richer. Because here's the paradox: the more you rely on love for fulfillment, the weaker it becomes. You put too much weight on it, expecting it to carry the burden of your happiness. No relationship can survive that pressure. But when you build your life on self-respect, love is free to be what it's meant to be, an addition, not a foundation. It becomes lighter, freer, more genuine. Love feels more alive when it isn't forced to keep you alive. Think of people who inspire you. Leaders, creators, individuals who walk with a quiet strength. What sets them apart is not that they have more love than others, but that they have more respect for themselves. They do not chase approval, they create their own. They do not cling to relationships out of fear, they enter them out of choice. Their fulfillment is sustainable because it isn't borrowed, it's owned. And when they love, their love is pure, not tainted by desperation or dependence. Temporary fulfillment always leaves you searching for more. It whispers, if only I had more love, more attention, more affirmation, then I would finally feel enough. But the hunger never ends, because the source is external. Sustainable fulfillment silences that hunger. It says, I already am enough. Love adds to me, but it doesn't complete me. That kind of fulfillment doesn't leave you chasing, it leaves you choosing. And this is the deeper truth. Love is seasonal, but self-respect is eternal. Love may arrive in your life in many forms: romantic, familial, platonic. Some will stay, some will fade. But your self-respect is the one relationship that is guaranteed to be with you from beginning to end. It is the only source of fulfillment that will not abandon you, will not betray you, and will not change with the seasons. It is sustainable because it is yours, rooted in who you are, not in what someone else gives you. Love is often described as the highest expression of humanity. It is celebrated as the thing worth sacrificing for, the thing people fight wars over, write poetry about, and devote their lives to chasing. But love, when it exists without the grounding of self-respect, is not noble. It becomes dangerous. It transforms from a source of joy into a slow form of self-destruction, because it demands more than it gives and erodes the very person offering it. At its core, self-respect is a compass. It tells you who you are, what you deserve, and what you will not accept. Without it, love becomes a force that pushes you in directions that are harmful, even when they feel intoxicating. You convince yourself that compromise is proof of commitment, when in reality, it is proof that you are abandoning yourself. And once you start abandoning yourself in the name of love, where does it end? The answer is simple. It doesn't end, it consumes you. Picture someone who enters a relationship believing that love is enough to justify anything. At first, the compromises seem small. Ignoring a harsh word, excusing a broken promise, staying quiet when disrespected. But each time they choose silence over self-respect, a piece of their identity is chipped away. Over time, the person they once were becomes unrecognizable. They are no longer guided by their own values, but by the fear of losing love. What remains is not love at all, but dependency. And dependency, masquerading as love, is the quickest path to self-destruction. But the truth is, love without self-respect is a one-way street. It demands your energy, your time, your identity, and gives you nothing that sustains you in return. You become trapped in a cycle of giving and giving, while convincing yourself that love is supposed to hurt, that love is supposed to cost you everything. But genuine love was never meant to strip you of your dignity. It was never meant to ask you to sacrifice your worth. When love forces you to shrink in order to survive, it has already turned into something else entirely. This is why so many people stay in unhealthy relationships. They believe that leaving means failure, that enduring disrespect is a sign of loyalty. But endurance without self-respect is not loyalty. It is self-betrayal. Every time you stay silent when you want to speak, every time you lower your standards to keep love, every time you ignore your intuition just to avoid conflict, you are destroying yourself in the name of preserving a bond that does not preserve you. And when destruction happens slowly, piece by piece, it becomes easy to deny until one day you wake up and realize you no longer recognize the person in the mirror. But here's the paradox. The very thing you fear, the loss of love, has already happened. Because when you sacrifice your self-respect, you are not truly being loved. You are being used. Love cannot be real if it requires the erasure of your dignity. It cannot be authentic if it thrives only when you are silent, small, or broken. Real love aligns with self-respect. It may challenge you, it may stretch you, but it will never diminish you. Think of it this way. If self-respect is the soil, then love is the plant. When the soil is rich and healthy, the plant grows strong and beautiful. But when the soil is dry and depleted, the plant may sprout for a while, but eventually it withers and dies. A relationship without self-respect can look alive on the surface. Smiles, moments of passion, displays of affection, but underneath the roots are decaying. Without respect for yourself, you cannot provide the nourishment needed for love to last. There is also a deeper psychological cost to love without self-respect. It creates a mindset where your value is measured by someone else's treatment of you. If they are kind, you feel worthy. If they are distant, you feel unworthy. Your entire identity becomes tied to the fluctuations of another person's attention. That is not love, it is emotional captivity. It places your happiness in the hands of someone who may or may not know how to care for it. And the longer you live in that captivity, the more you lose the ability to walk away, even when the cage door is open. Self-destruction through love is subtle. It does not always come in the form of dramatic heartbreak or abuse. Sometimes it looks like forgetting your dreams because your partner's dreams feel more important. Sometimes it looks like sacrificing your friendships because you believe your relationship should be your whole world. Sometimes it looks like silencing your voice because speaking up might create conflict. These choices may seem small in the moment, but over time they create a life where you no longer exist as yourself. You exist as a shadow of who you were meant to be. The danger of love without self-respect is that it convinces you that this shadow life is enough. You tell yourself, at least I'm not alone. At least someone loves me. But what good is being loved if the cost is hating yourself? What good is having someone by your side if you have abandoned your own soul? Loneliness is hard, yes. But losing yourself while pretending to be loved is far worse. Because at least with loneliness, you remain intact. With self-destruction, you lose both love and yourself. And yet, when you root love in self-respect, everything changes. You no longer tolerate disrespect. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about yourself. You no longer beg for attention because you recognize your own worth whether others see it or not. You no longer cling out of fear because you know that love without dignity is not love at all. Instead of self-destruction, you find self-preservation. Instead of losing yourself in love, you find a love that sees and honors who you truly are. There is an irony in the way love works that most people overlook. We spend so much of our lives chasing love, thinking that if we just look a certain way, act a certain way, or sacrifice enough, then maybe love will finally choose us. But the paradox is this: the more desperately you chase love, the more it slips away. The more you respect yourself, the more love finds its way to you without effort. It is almost as if love is drawn not to those who seek it at all costs, but to those who already carry wholeness within themselves. Self-respect is magnetic. It communicates something powerful without words. When you respect yourself, people sense it. They see it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you set boundaries, in the way you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. It creates an energy that says, I am enough on my own. And if love comes, it will be an addition to my life, not the definition of it. That kind of presence attracts a different quality of love, not the kind that clings out of insecurity, but the kind that values you for exactly who you are. The paradox becomes clear when you consider the opposite. When you lack self-respect, love becomes something you chase. You bend yourself into shapes you were never meant to fit into. You silence your needs so you can seem easier to love. You lower your standards so you won't scare someone away. But all of this effort has the opposite effect of what you intend. Instead of drawing real love toward you, it repels it. Because desperation is never attractive. It doesn't communicate worth. It communicates fear. And fear-based love is not sustainable. It becomes conditional, manipulative, and fragile. People are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to authenticity. And authenticity cannot exist without self-respect. When you respect yourself, you are not afraid to be who you are. You don't wear masks to earn approval. You don't shrink your dreams to make others comfortable. You show up fully, as yourself unapologetically. That authenticity creates a space where the right kind of love can recognize you and say, this is real, this is safe, this is what I want. Without self-respect, you never give that love a chance, because you are too busy performing for attention that was never meant for you in the first place. Think about the times you've admired someone from a distance. What drew you to them? Was it their neediness? Was it their constant attempts to please everyone? Or was it the quiet confidence with which they moved through the world? More often than not, it was the latter. That quiet confidence is not arrogance.
It is self-respect. It's the energy that says, I know who I am, and I don't need to beg for you to see it. And ironically, it's that very stance that makes people want to see you, want to know you, want to be close to you. The paradox of attraction teaches us that love is not something you catch by running faster. It's something you invite by standing taller. It's not about proving your worth. It's about living your worth. When you do that, love aligns with you naturally. The wrong kind of love fades, because it cannot survive in the presence of someone who refuses to be diminished. The right kind of love flourishes because it feels safe, respected, and inspired by the space you've created.
There's also another dimension to this paradox. When you respect yourself, you are not afraid to walk away from love that does not honor you. And that very willingness to walk away makes the love you keep far stronger. Why? Because it's no longer based on fear of losing someone, it's based on the mutual choice to stay. Relationships built on fear are fragile, but relationships built on choice are unbreakable. Self-respect gives you the courage to choose, and choice is what gives love its true power. It is easy to believe that making yourself smaller will make love easier to hold on to. But in reality, making yourself smaller only ensures that you will be held less tightly, because the love you attract in that state will always be conditional. It will always require you to keep shrinking to survive. On the other hand, when you expand into your full self, when you respect your own identity and your own worth, you make space for the kind of love that doesn't demand your reduction, it demands your expansion.
Love, in its truest form, does not want a hollow version of you. It wants the fullness of you, the unfiltered, unapologetic, authentic self that only exists when you have self-respect. And so the paradox continues. By not chasing love, you attract it. By not depending on love, you create the conditions for it to thrive. By holding on to yourself, you create the space for someone else to truly hold you.
The paradox of attraction is not a trick or a strategy. It is a truth about human connection. People cannot love you more deeply than you love yourself. If you treat yourself as disposable, others will too. If you treat yourself as invaluable, others will either rise to meet that or reveal themselves as unworthy of your presence. In both cases, you win because you no longer waste your life clinging to love that was never real.
And so, the more you respect yourself, the more you invite real love into your life. Not the kind of love that is conditional or fragile, but the kind that grows in the soil of dignity and authenticity. Self-respect does not compete with love. It creates the conditions for love to thrive. The paradox is simple but profound. The moment you stop needing love to define you is the moment love begins to truly find you.
When we strip everything down to its core, we see that love, as beautiful and necessary as it can be, is never enough without self-respect. Love without self-respect turns into compromise after compromise until you no longer recognize yourself. Love without self-respect leaves you vulnerable to being broken, dependent, and diminished. But self-respect is different. It is not fragile, it is not temporary, and it is not conditional. It is the foundation that gives love its strength, the soil that allows it to grow, the shield that protects it from turning into something toxic. Self-respect is what defines your identity. It is what creates boundaries that honor your value. It is what gives you fulfillment that lasts beyond the presence of another person. Without it, love becomes fleeting, unstable, and even destructive. With it, love becomes richer, more authentic, and sustainable. And perhaps the most powerful paradox of all is this. When you stop chasing love and start respecting yourself, love finds you in its truest form.
In the end, love may enhance your life, but self-respect is what sustains it. Love may come and go in seasons, but self-respect stays with you for a lifetime. Love may make you feel alive, but self-respect is what keeps you whole. If you must choose, always choose self-respect, because the love that is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it.